A lady named Paula adopts a strange girl after she's found stranded on the road. Quite surprisingly, it turns out that the girl only prefers to stay inside a box marked by a chalk line. Even though this means she can't move to different places around the house, strange things start happening. And Paula starts suspecting that her mysterious daughter might be responsible for everything.
Hey!
A few days earlier, Paula and her husband Simon are on their way home when they see a young girl walking in the middle of the road. They immediately get out of their car to check on the girl, and they also save her from almost getting hit by a speeding motorcycle. Since the girl looks really weak, the couple takes her to the hospital, and there the doctor confirms that she's very sick and malnourished. The detectives at the hospital also mention that despite all efforts to get any information about her parents, the girl has remained silent. Since the girl will stay in the hospital for a while, Simon and Paula leave for their home. When they get there, Paula quickly goes to the bathroom to use her fertility injections, which she still doesn't want her husband to know about. After she's done, she and Simon freshen up so they can head to the hospital again. When they get there, they meet a doctor named Gloria, who informs them that since the girl hasn't said anything yet, it's likely that she's mute. She also adds that the girl's name is likely Clara because she keeps reacting to the name every time one of the nurses who bears the name is called. As the doctor continues to give Simon and Paula more information about the girl, they suddenly have to rush to the children's section to check on Clara, who is refusing to move out of a small square box drawn on the floor. While the nurses are struggling to deal with the situation, Paula suddenly interferes and helps the girl feel calmer and safe. Later that day, when Simon and Paula arrive home, they go to a nearby house to see their neighbors, one of whom is a pregnant lady named Claudia. A man named Eduardo and his wife, Maite, are also present at what looks like a neighborhood meeting. There, Simon and Paula are asked about Clara, and they give the group all the information they currently have, including that the girl is very sick and will be staying at the hospital till further notice. Shortly after, Claudia touches her stomach, and Paula seems to get jealous because she has still not had a baby while her friend has one and is already pregnant with another. Days later, Simon and Paula visit the hospital again, and Gloria informs them that Clara is now getting better. However, she mentions that it's still very hard to get Clara to leave the square box she's always staying inside. Since Clara seems to be more comfortable with having Paula around, Gloria suggests taking the girl home for a while to see if she improves or gives any clues regarding where she's from. Paula is particularly happy about this, and Simon also agrees. Later that day, when they arrive home, the couple informs Eduardo and Maite about their decision to bring Clara home. Eduardo asks if they're sure about it, and Paula says they're convinced that they can help Clara get better in the house. Following this, they all arrange the house together, after which Clara is finally brought in to stay with them. The next morning, after Clara wakes up, Simon and Paula quickly make her comfortable by giving her some food. Paula also discovers that Clara doesn't want to leave the boundaries of the chalk line around her bed. Since she wants Clara to move around the house freely, Paula extends the chalk line to several parts around the house. Clara seems to be quite comfortable with this, and later that night, she lets Paula sleep next to her. The next day, Gloria comes to the house to see if Clara is better. Unfortunately, the young girl still says nothing, so Gloria threatens to clean the chalk line. This gets Clara angry, and Paula also feels concerned, but Gloria tells her and Simon to stay in the living room while she does her job. The couple eventually does this, but as Clara starts screaming at Gloria, Paula runs to help the girl, who speaks for the first time and says the word "Booma." Later that night, Gloria asks Clara what this word means, but the girl quickly moves behind Paula, saying she can't talk about it. Gloria then starts recording Clara as she mentions the word "Crida" when asked where she lives. She also says some other strange words, but as she starts to get uncomfortable, Paula calms her and stops her from saying anything else. The next day, Paula then tells Clara not to worry about anything because she and Simon will take care of her very well. Clara seems happy to hear this, and she gives Paula a small DIY paper craft as a gift. That night, when Paula and Simon meet with their neighbors, Claudia commends them for the work they've done with Clara so far. As they also mention that Clara finally spoke for the first time, Eduardo asks what she said, and Simon mentions that they were just random words. Shortly after, Claudia mentions that her daughter, Ainoha, can't wait to meet Clara. Even though Paula looks unsure about this, Simon says it might be good for Clara to be friends with other kids. The next day, Claudia brings Ainoha to Paula's house, but Clara doesn't seem interested in making new friends. As the girls then walk away together, Paula serves Claudia breakfast, but while she's eating, she suddenly starts choking and finds a piece of broken glass inside the jam she was given. Paula looks shocked by this, and after she helps Claudia head back to her house, Simon tells her that someone put the broken pieces of glass inside the jam. Paula laughs it off since it's clear that Simon is insinuating that Clara did it, but he tells her that no one else could have done it. However, Paula believes Clara couldn't have done it because the chalk line doesn't extend to the cupboard where they keep the jam. Simon suggests telling Gloria about what happened, but Paula convinces him not to do it immediately. Following this, he heads out to get some supplies for the house. When he returns, though, he brings back a chalk with the word Clara printed on it. With this, Paula realizes that it's a German word for chalk. Since this can help them understand Clara, the couple quickly informs Gloria, who then tries to see if the young girl is German. After translating some of the words Clara said the other day, Gloria and the couple figure out that two of the words translate to fear and punishment. However, they're still unable to figure out what the word Booma means. The next day, while Paula is trying to get Clara to tell her what Booma means, she hears the washing machine sounding. So she immediately goes to check it. When she returns, though, she doesn't see Clara inside her room anymore. After checking around the house, Paula doesn't see her, so she runs outside to check if Clara went outside. Unfortunately, she doesn't find her there, but as she returns inside, she sees Clara speaking to Simon, who has just arrived at the house through the kitchen. Paula is shocked by this, and she starts to wonder if Clara can actually step out of the chalk line. Later that day, Paula then tries to force Clara to tell her what Booma means, but the young girl kicks her. Paula doesn't understand this reaction, and as she wonders what's happening, she sees Eduardo from the window of his house, waving at her, but she doesn't respond. The next day, Gloria comes to the house after hearing that Clara attacked Paula. She also says she heard about the broken piece of glass Claudia had found in the jam. Paula still defends Clara, but Gloria looks concerned because it means the young girl is no longer making progress. Shortly after, a German language instructor brings Clara to the living room after confirming that she can indeed understand the language. However, the instructor mentions that Clara didn't respond to her or say anything else in German. While they're talking, Clara then shows Paula a drawing, but she doesn't seem to understand what it means. As Paula continues to struggle with what it possibly means, Clara tears the paper off her hands and leaves for her room. Gloria sees this and decides to start the paperwork to take Clara back to the hospital. Paula doesn't want this, but Gloria says it's the best thing to do. As the doctor then leaves, Paula angrily confronts Claudia because she was the one who likely told Gloria about the glass found in the jam. Claudia says she was only protecting her friend, but Paula tells her to mind her business. The next day, Paula continues to find the meaning of Booma, but all her spellings don't give any results. She eventually goes to get a glass of orange juice from the fridge, and as she drinks it, she finally gets a suggestion that spells Booma in a way that translates to boogeyman. However, before she can say anything, she starts choking on something that was inside the juice. Clara tries to help her, but Paula pushes her back and cuts the chalk line so that the young girl won't follow her. Shortly after, she then heads to her bathroom and figures out that there was another broken piece of glass inside the juice. Even though this makes her suspect Clara, Paula returns to the living room only to find out that the girl is missing. Since she's nowhere to be found, the police quickly arrive to ask a few questions. Despite the detectives making suggestions that Clara likely left the house, Paula doesn't believe this because the girl has never crossed the chalk line. In the days that follow, Paula gets increasingly worried about Clara, so her neighbors hold an intervention for her. Unfortunately, things turn out bad when Claudia tries to cheer Paula up by mentioning that she'll soon be due to give birth. Paula then gets angry and tells everyone to leave. Later that day, she tells Simon that she has to go out to find Clara, but he says he doesn't want the girl back in their house. Paula doesn't like his tone, but he then mentions that he knows she has secretly been using fertility injections. Paula apologizes for not telling him earlier. but as she still mentions finding Clara, Simon shows her the broken glass pieces he found in the young girl's stuffed toy. With this, Paula gets really confused because she still thinks Clara is innocent. The next day, while she's at home alone, Paula gets a call on the landline. As she picks up the call, she hears Clara's voice and looks shocked. Before she can talk for long, though, the line disconnects. Paula then goes to the police station with Simon to report what happened. After the officers trace the call, they surprisingly discover that the call came from Paula's phone. She's left shocked by this, but since this makes her seem suspicious, the cops tell her that she needs to see a psychologist. Paula initially refuses, but as the detectives insist, she finally lets a psychologist examine her. When she's through, Paula steals the case files on the detective's table. She then tells Simon that she has to go somewhere for a while. Almost immediately, she runs to a coffee shop and looks at the files. Inside it, she sees a case of a Swiss girl named Ingrid, who was also kidnapped and later found dead. As Paula continues to look at Ingrid's case file, she realizes that when Ingrid was found, she looked malnourished and had several injuries that were similar to what Clara initially struggled with when she was found. As she does some more research, Paula finds out that Ingrid also used to make paper crafts like Clara. Shortly after, Paula eventually heads home, but Simon is not back from work yet. As she then looks around the house for clues that could help her find Clara, she sees Clara's last drawing and realizes that it is a drawing of the window in Clara's room. Paula then looks out the window and discovers that Clara was pointing her toward Eduardo's house. Almost immediately, she calls the police to report him, but since she's scared he might hurt Clara, she goes to his house to meet him. When she gets there, she pretends to be there to get something from Maite, but Eduardo eventually realizes that she's lying. Before she can escape, he locks the door and stabs her shoulder with a hammer before dragging her down into his basement, which is also where Clara is being held. It then turns out that Eduardo was the one who took Clara to stand on the road. It was also the reason he was so curious about the girl's condition. After Clara spent a few days in Paula's house, Eduardo tried to take her back, but coincidentally, Simon arrived at the house, so he couldn't proceed with his plan. From the flashbacks, Eduardo was also responsible for putting broken glass pieces inside the jam and orange juice. On the day of the intervention, Eduardo took Paula's phone, and that was how he was able to use it to call the landline to make Paula seem like she was mentally unstable. Back to the present, the police visit Eduardo's house regarding the complaint they got from Paula. However, he quickly clears himself so they can leave. After a while, he then returns to the basement to meet Paula and asks how she found out he was the one who kidnapped Clara. Paula says she saw Ingrid's case file, and as he asks for it, she tells him that she left it in her car. Following this, Eduardo takes her car keys and goes to check her car, but he doesn't find the files there. So he heads into her house. Meanwhile, Paula finds a piece of chalk in her pocket, so she forces herself to slightly open the door to the room she's being held in so she can get Clara to help her. Even though Clara is scared, Paula gives her a chalk to draw more lines so she can hide near the door and escape when Eduardo returns. As Paula is then encouraging her, she finds out that Clara is actually Ingrid's daughter. She also figures out that Ingrid gave birth inside the basement. Shortly after, Eduardo returns to the basement, and Clara finally heads out and locks the door. She then continues drawing more lines until she reaches the entrance of the house. Since she won't be able to draw more lines on the bare ground, Clara tries to walk outside, but she's scared. She eventually stays back and calls Simon's name, but he's unable to hear her because the windows in his house are locked. Simon! He's also quite angry on the phone while speaking to the police and informing them of his wife's sudden disappearance. Paula finally builds the courage to walk outside, but as she keeps calling Simon's name, Mate returns home and sees her. Before Paula can do anything, Maida quickly grabs hold of her. Paula tries to free herself and even pushes the door to stay open, but Maida forces her through and takes her into the house. Shortly after, Maida helps Eduardo out of the basement. He then thanks her, but she says she only helped him because she wants him to stop molesting her kids, who are currently living in another city. She also mentions that she'd like the freedom to go and see her kids anytime she likes. Eduardo agrees to this, and she then serves him breakfast. As he starts eating, Maida decides to go for a walk, but as she opens the door, she sees Paula's hand prints on it. This shocks her, but before she can do anything about it, a group of policemen invade the house to arrest Mike and Eduardo after Simon had called them again to report that they might have something to do with Clara and Paula's disappearance. A few months later, Paula is now living in a new city with Simon, while Clara now stays with her grandmother. Despite being miles apart, they still communicate via video call, and as they're talking, it turns out that Paula is now pregnant.